All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother, Elisha Israel of the house of faith. And I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word of God. I never do count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I'm not going to keep you long. I'm coming on extra late this evening. And today's message is entitled The Significance of the Lynching Tree. The significance of the lynching tree. And I'm bringing forth this message in lieu of there being, since May 31st, that I've heard about 3 potential lynchings in the United States. Well, literally, I know oftentimes we refer to police killings, or you hear police killings referred to as lynchings, but I mean like literal lynchings, like men hanging from trees, black men hanging from trees. And I say potential because I like to wait for all the information to come out, because of course they are ruling these as suicides, which is, they immediately said it was suicides, and some of these are outside in public places. All of them actually are outside in public places. 2 are in California. One was in, I believe, Manhattan. But if you've been paying, number one, I want to say this: if you've been paying attention, there's been here and there lynching in the modern era. And if you know the history of this country, you know that this country has a very sordid history of hanging black people from trees, and it being a very it's a spectacle. It evoked terror, and you had thousands of black men, women, and children that were lynched in this country. And I want to show you the significance of the lynching tree pertaining to scripture, because even when we think about the Mashiach, or the Messiah, the Christ, he was hanged on a tree. Okay. And that tree, we call the cross, it was comparable to a lynching. Okay. How he was abused, how it was a spectacle. And that's significant. I'm gonna go over the significance of the lynching tree. And I want to start off in Deuteronomy, the 21st chapter, because here we see what it means when somebody is hanged on a tree. Deuteronomy, the 21st chapter, and verse 22. It says, "If a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day." Now, he's going to say specifically why that is. He says, "For he that is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance." So the accursed of God hang on trees. Okay. Peace to you, Brother Sanders and Corey Smith. That's an urban myth. That was, you heard that back in the day. As far as timberlands, you had nothing to do with the tree on the timberland. That's an urban myth. But now let's go. Let's keep going, and let's see something that happened with the Messiah. John, the Gospel according to John. Peace to you, brother, Mr. Born Again. John, the 19th chapter, verse 31. Let's see what happened when he died on the Passover. It says in verse 31, "The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was an high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away." Okay, so it was a Sabbath day, but they wanted to make sure indeed that he was taken down. Okay, now let's go and find out what he was. Okay, let's go to the book of Galatians. I believe it's in Galatians. Let's go to Galatians, the 3rd chapter. Let's see. Galatians, the 3rd chapter and verse 13. And let's see what Christ was for us. It says, Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. So he took upon the curse upon himself that was supposed to be upon us. For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. Again, so when you think of even when you think of the crucifixion, it is comparable to a lynching. Okay, even a black man, because we know the Messiah Christ was a black man. We know the Israelites are black people that have been scattered abroad through slavery, and we're gonna get to that in a second. But he took upon the curse upon himself. Again, it said the curse of God are hanged upon trees. So when you see, it's not just by coincidence that that's the mode of killing us, and you see us on these trees. Okay, because we are cursed by God. Some might say, well, how could you say blacks in America, and I'm talking about blacks in America, that we're cursed by God? How could you say that? Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. We bear the cross. That being hanged on trees shows that we are the cursed of God. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, because here we see the curses. And when you see the curses that were put on his chosen people, that line up directly with what happened to us. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, in verse 15, it says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these, listen to the wording here, curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Now, as you continue to read, I want you to compare what we've experienced, the so-called Negro, and what those who claim to be the chosen people have experienced. This is not their experience. It said, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. So wherever you're at, you're cursed. Economically, you're cursed. Certainly, they're not economically cursed. It says, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Peace to you, Sister Miriam. So now, wherever you go, again, you look at our travels here in this country. We certainly were catching hell in the South and went to the North for opportunity, and saw that that was still South, because it was below the Canadian border, as Malcolm would say. So, but now let's keep reading. It says in verse 28, the Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. Meaning, at the time we had the most sunlight, you're blind as to what you should do. You're blind. And that's how we are as a people. Even when you look at what's going on right now in the country, we're blind. We're blind. We're groping at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Then he says something, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. So in captivity, your wife is going to be taken from you. Think about what happened to us during the time of slavery. Think about even what happened to us in the Jim Crow South. We just have a semblance of freedom since 1968. And I have been telling people for years now, you need to look at what happened after Reconstruction. Reconstruction was the period from 1865 to 1877. It was the time in which, after the Civil War in the United States, the government took the initiative to try to deal with the 4 million newly freed men and women in the South. So they had a Freedmen's Bank. You saw the education efforts. One of the greatest educational effort in the United States was literacy with the so-called Negro during this time. You also saw that during this time that the South was occupied. But after the compromise for the election, it was 1876. Was it Hayes and Tilden? Then you see what? Peace to you, Brother Austin. You see them being removed, because at that time during Reconstruction, people talk about Barack Obama there were talks of having a black vice president. You had the first black senator. You had the first black lieutenant governor. You had a representative. You had blacks that were occupying political positions throughout the South during Reconstruction. This is the late 19th century or the late 1800s. Okay, that's what was going on then. And what happened when the Union troops left and occupation ended, and towards the end of that time, you saw more and more terrorism by organizations like the KKK. Okay, lynching was something that was used then as well to evoke terror. But again, lynching is the sign of the accursed of God. Okay, again, so it's not a coincidence that we have been hanging on these trees like strange fruit blowing in the southern breeze, as Billie Holiday would say. So now we need to look, when you see what's going on with us right now, you need to look, you need to examine Reconstruction and what happened after the time of Reconstruction. Sheer terror against Black people. Sheer terror. If you think that things are just going to continue as they are, you are mistaken. You are mistaken. Study Reconstruction and see what happened after Reconstruction, because what happened after Reconstruction in a similar form is going to happen to Black people in this country. History is cyclical. But now let's go to let's skip down a little bit, because he said your wife's going to be taken. And when you read our history, when you read the slave narratives, you see that was a common practice, that the slave master would take the man's wife, take the slave's wife, have his way with her. I've read all kinds of accounts to where even where men would make, slave masters would make the husband watch as he raped his wife. All kinds of horrific and dehumanizing activities, sexual activities were going on. Peace to your sister. Peace to you, Brother Austin and Sister Ruth. All types of things were going on at this time. So he said, thou shalt betroth a wife. I'm in verse 30, Deuteronomy 28 and 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Meaning, not, it's in your face. Not that I'm going to work and somebody's sleeping in your bed. Now he said he tell you to get out and take your wife. He said, thou shalt not dwell there. So it says, thou shalt build a house and shall not dwell therein. Okay. So now you think about what we built. We built the houses in the South. We built the country. We built the White House. Okay. It said, thou shalt plant a vineyard and shall not gather the grapes thereof. So you're doing all this work. People say, well, you're lazy. Well, if you build a country, you might be a little tired. But oftentimes you build and you see all the things you're doing, and you're not prospering. But we certainly have picked, just in cotton alone, I always tell people, we picked billions with a B of tons of cotton. Just cotton. That doesn't count rice, indigo, tobacco, the various other agricultural crops and cash crops that were in the South. We did that. We did that work for hundreds of years. But got very little for it. We didn't reap what we sowed. Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given into another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. Your children will be sold. Like I always quote that, I'm paraphrasing now, Sojourner Truth poem, Ain't I a Woman, where she had, I believe, 12 children. I think it was 12. Don't quote me on that. I think it was 12 children she had, and most of them were sold. And she said nobody heard her cries but Jesus. But these are the curses that came upon the children of Israel. He says in verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. So what is a byword and a proverb? I remember my first couple days on the college campus. I went early to get a job and started training for that job and was working before my classes as a freshman began. And me and my roommate, we walking. We both came down there early to get in this work study program. And what was said immediately? What was yelled out the window? The N word. As we're walking on campus. Somebody's yelling the N word out of the window at us. You know, we have so many. I have to, you know, go to sleep eventually, so I don't want to go through all of the bywords and the sayings, the insults that they have pertaining to us as a people. So he says, "And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee." Again, he says, verse 41, "Thou shalt begat sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them." He tells you why. "For they shall go into captivity." That is one of the most heinous crimes of slavery, is the selling of children. You know, and that's one of the things that after slavery, slaves tried to do, was try to reunite with family members, because people were being sold again like cattle to pay off debts and different things like that. So he tells you what these are in verse 45. He says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee." Notice the wording, curses again. These are the curses. So when I say we curse as a people, not as if we cursed in our skin, like, you know, the curse of Ham is so erroneously taught to justify the white supremacy and enslavement of Black people in this country. You know, that's the religious leg of white supremacy. You know, you see it was pseudoscientific things that were said about Black people, and you know, just different things that were used to justify what was the dehumanization. But ultimately, we have been brought into the subjection of these people by our God, because we, again, did not hearken to the voice of the Lord our God to observe to do all his commandments. That's why we're in the condition that we are in right now. And you painting Black Lives Matter, you can paint Black Lives Matter all throughout all the streets. Most people don't have a clue of what Black Lives Matter's platform is. Most people don't have a clue as to, nobody was talking about defunding the police. They put that out there. Nobody has a clue about what that organization is actually about. A lot of these protests are not organic. A lot of these protests are being, this movement has been co-opted like the first Black Lives Matter was. Because if you look at the first Black Lives Matter, it was co-opted. And what did it become? It became a movement about feminism and homosexuality and transgenderism, and it was not about men at all, although it was spawned because Black men were killed by the police. Today, you see it again being co-opted. You have piles of bricks and people paying people to throw bricks, and people painting or spray painting Black Lives Matter on everything, and even defacing certain Black monuments dedicated to Black achievement in certain cases. But I digress. He says in verse 45, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed." See, this is what's going to happen to you. This is what happened to us as a people. "Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee." So when you think about what's happened to us as a people, it's been one program after another of destruction, of an attack on Black people in this country. And for those who say it hasn't been, you don't know the history. You have a lot of Black pundits or Black talking heads that whites will put in front of people and have them say things that's not true. You know, and the reality is that that's the history. That's the history. So, this is the curse. He says, "Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee." Then he says something else, verse 46, he says, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So if you want to know who these people are, look at the people who fit these curses. Look at the people who fit these curses. That's who they are. I'm going to skip down to verse 60. Let's pick it up at verse 64. It says, verse 63, it says, and it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught or nothing, and ye shall be plucked from out the land whither thou goest to possess it. So now we have been plucked off our land and have been taken into these other lands, even on another continent. It says, and the Lord shall scatter thee from thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither now that thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And that's what we're doing right now. We're serving these false gods. And that's why we have, even when you look at Christianity, Christianity is false. We in every religious sect you can think of, worshiping falsely where the oracles of God were given to us. Where he says, only you have I known of all the nations of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquity. The true Israelite, the true so-called, the true Jew, or Yehudi, or Judean, are the so-called Negro. That's who his chosen people are. Israel is the black people that have been scattered into slavery all over the world. Okay? He goes on to say, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of our eyes, and sorrow of mind. This is our experience. He goes on to say, and thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall serve none assurance of thy, and shall have none assurance of thy life. If these police killings don't show you that, if the killings that that our people experience just in our neighborhoods don't show you that. See, a lot of people don't walk around with the fear of being shot, the fear of the police doing something to them, the fear of something happening in their community, the fear, even not that long ago, the fear of walking on the wrong side of the tracks and what can happen when you pass that imaginary border. The fear of the KKK, the fear of the man with the cracking whip, the fear of the slave master. These are the fears that we've had. So he says, in the morning thou shalt say, what God will even, and at even thou shalt say, what God will morning. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Then he says something in verse 68. He says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Egypt was Israel's first captivity, and Egypt is synonymous with bondage. He said, I'm the Lord that God which brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So he's saying you're going into bondage or captivity or slavery via slave ships. That's what he's saying. And that's how we got here. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way, whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And what's going to happen when you get there? And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And that's what happened to us as a people. And these are the curses that we bore. But the lynching tree, brothers and sisters, is the sign of the accursed of God. So we are a cursed people, not because we have melanin. That's a blessing, actually. It is because we are the chosen people of God, and this is a consequence of us turning our back on the true and living God. And ultimately, if we want to get out of our situation, it's not that you don't need to join the NAACP, the Urban League. You don't need to join Black Lives Matter. You don't need to take to the streets and march. You don't have to vote for Satan or the devil. What you need to do is turn back to your God. He said, if my people are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and turn and seek my face, then will I hear from heaven, forgive their sins and heal their land. You don't have to be a Marxist or a capitalist. You don't have to say, well, I need another degree. That is not the answer to our overall solution as a people. Maybe it's black banking, it's black commerce. We're going to boycott. None of what we're going to take up arms because power comes out of the barrel of a gun. Nothing that you've done has worked. That's not by coincidence. That and nothing, and I'm tell you today, none of that will work because I'm a pessimist. No, because I know the root of our problem. The root of our problem is spiritual. What you see manifested is rooted in a spiritual problem. We have a problem with our God. We have turned our back on Him, and He turned His back on us. But if we turn back unto Him, He'll turn back unto us. We do not have the power within us, because we're a nation within a nation. We don't have the power to go up against not even other groups. We don't have power. We don't even know who we are as a people. We claiming a whole continent as you say, we are African American. That's not an appropriate name. There's over 50 countries in Africa. Which one are you from? And America comes from the name, most say it comes from Amerigo Vespucci, who was an Italian. So you name yourself after an Italian and a continent? No, other people can be specific. But the Bible also tells you, I will cause the members of them to cease from among men. And that's where we're at right now. We have to turn back unto Him. See, the sign is there. Because things, brothers and sisters, you might not want to hear, things are going to get worse. Things are going to get worse. So it is time for us as a people to turn back to the true and living God. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you, we at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Right now, we are live streaming, but we will be reopening very soon. I'll let people know when that is. And also, because we live stream, that's what we're doing right now, right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach, I was just reading the message. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as on our website, www.israelteach, that's one word, ISRAELTEACH.org, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, every Sabbath, which is Saturday. We also have Bible study every Friday evening at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Zoom. That's Bible study every Household of Faith Bible study every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Zoom. And the personal meeting ID number is 602-961-1318. Again, that number is 602-961-1318. That's the number you need in order to be a part of the Zoom Bible study. Okay. In addition, if you've been edified through the ministry and would like to leave a donation, and we are truly thankful for those who have done so. All the money goes to the work of the ministry. You can go to our website again, www.israelteach.org, and leave a donation. Again, 100% of the proceeds goes to the work of the ministry. We are truly grateful for that. We are still well, let me there are books. I'm gonna keep that to myself. I'm not gonna say that right now. I was thinking about saying something. I'm gonna just hold off on that. And just want to remind you also that there are books available right now that I've written on Amazon.com and BarnesandNobles.com and Barnes and Noble and other places where books are sold. And Egypt begin with ships, the pagan origins of Christian holidays, killing black innocents, hell like wolf, feet like burned brass, financial great tribulation, and in defense of biblical polygyny. All these books are available again on Barnes and Nobles and Amazon.com and where other books are sold. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to say peace to everybody. And it's always my prayer that you were edified.